I put up one song called Cherry on Top, which is a song I wrote by myself a year or so prior to even finding out about Wavelake. It was already on Spotify and Apple Music and whatnot. But I put up Cherry on Top and it becomes the first song to ever earn 1 million sats. So my origin story is truly just kind of bonkers about how I got into this space. It's so cool to get off stage and go through your wallet and see, hey, this person boosted 500 sats to 2 ships. This person boosted $500 in Bitcoin. And it really opens up that direct to fan relationship in a way that I don't think the music industry has been able to accomplish before.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Byte Federal Podcast. I'm joined by an awesome guest today, Ainsley Costello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
No relation to Elvis Costello.
No, I've had a lot of people ask me that in the past. It'd be cool, but Elvis Costello is actually not his real name.
Really? Oh, there you go. And Ainsley is your real name.
Ainsley Costello is on my birth certificate.
Just like Bitcoin, legit, right to the truth. Awesome. So Ainsley, for those who don't know, is a musician out of Nashville. And I got to see her speak at Bitcoin Day Naples. She was on a panel of Gen Z Bitcoiners. Many of them were talking about the financial benefits of Bitcoin. Ainsley really stuck out to me because she is using it to better her business. And so we're really excited to talk to you about that today. And in preparation for this, I went on to your X and you had a quote there, disrupting music one zap at a time. And that was phenomenal. I love that. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you got started as a musician, and then we can transition into your Bitcoin story and how you started to realize that Bitcoin could really adapt the way you sell your music.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just kind of came into this world just made to do music.
Cool.
My dad is a lifelong musician. He went to LA in the 90s to do the same thing that I'm doing here. And my mom is not a musician, but she's very creative in other ways, photography, graphic design. So I grew up in a very creative household. But yeah, so when I was born in Florida, and my parents had moved from LA to Florida to kind of settle down, get the J job, have family kind of thing. But some of my earliest, most formative memories are of going to see my dad play in cover bands on the weekends and just like running up on stage, and my mom just kind of trying to be like, no, this is not your time, honey. But it was just implanted in me from a very young age that I just kind of had this instinctual knowledge that music is kind of just what I am here to do. I'm here to write songs about how I feel, and hopefully they connect with other people. And my dad grew up playing piano around the house, and I learned how to play my first guitar chords and piano chords from him. And then, I got older and I started doing the school talent shows and the school musicals. And then I had my first, I guess you could say, like Ainsley Costello Incorporated show when I was 12 or 13. And since then it was just like, all right, guess we're just starting on this path a little early. Let's just go for it.
Good for you. That's fantastic. I love it when people have a clear vision of who they are and what they want to be. And obviously, it's allowed you to accelerate through life faster than most people. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
How did you then find Bitcoin? What was it that triggered you to connect Bitcoin and your love of music?
Yeah, so my origin story is truly just kind of bonkers about how I got into this space. So I live in Nashville now. So in July of 2023, man, we're coming up on 2.5, 3 years now that I've kind of been entrenched in all of this. My dad was going down to Bitcoin Park in Nashville. Also, who would have ever thought that we have a place in Nashville called Bitcoin Park? But it's like very Nashville in the sense that it's right off Music Row where all of our big labels and publisher houses are. And I believe that the houses where, Bitcoin Park is located right now were the old Florida Georgia Line houses where they recorded some of those like first major singles that were just absolutely huge in 2010s country radio. But so my dad had gone down to Bitcoin Park for something, I don't remember. And they were having a lightning summit that day and the day afterwards. And that is where he stumbled into this new streaming app called Wavelake, having just a demo about what they were about. And that's where my dad met Sam Means, who is, kind of the main guy at Wavelake and who is also just having an amazing moment right now with his band. The format, like they're just having this awesome resurgence, and I'm so hyped for them because it's like like also a great record. If you haven't gone and
Cool.
listened to it, definitely recommend go and listen to Boycott Heaven by the Format. But yeah, so my dad had met Sam from Wave Lake, and he came home that night. He was like, all right, I know you've been hearing me kind of like talk about Bitcoin the past couple weeks, but like you should maybe go down and look at this. And so my mom and I go down the next day, and we sit in on the demo, and we see that it's a streaming platform where you can upload your music and then get paid in micropayments of Bitcoin. And my mom and I are always of the mentality of like, hey, this is cool. Why wouldn't I try something? Like, at the end of the day, you can throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall, and if things don't stick, fine. And if things do stick, that's great. But you can't say you didn't try. And so I think we were just kind of that mentality of, yeah, why wouldn't I try putting my music on Wave Lake? And so long story short, I put up one song called Cherry on Top, which is a song I wrote by myself a year or so prior to even finding out about Wave Lake. It was already on Spotify and Apple Music and whatnot. But I put up Cherry on Top, and it becomes the first song to ever earn 1 million sats in this kind of weird alternate universe, value verse, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if anybody has figured out, what the right terminology for this space is yet. But yeah, it earns 1 million sats on Wave Lake, and that's kind of in part to Adam Curry picking it up and putting it on his music show, Boostagram Ball. And it has just since led to a bunch of really wonderful opportunities. Ironically, some of my most successful traditional career moments have happened because I fell into the Bitcoin world. Like I got to, because of this whole space, I got to go and play the 7th Street entry at First Avenue in Minneapolis, which is like a legendary venue. The year after that, we got to do Adam Curry Boostagram Ball live at Antone's in Austin, Texas. And yeah, it's just been a wild ride that I never would have expected.
That's amazing. Like, so when you first started doing this, where was your dad like already into Bitcoin, and he did you have any understanding of like what is a sat when this all first started happening, or?
Had no idea. I mean, I kind of vaguely knew what Bitcoin was, but I didn't know what a sat was. I didn't know, the terminology that I kind of know about the space now. And my dad, he had been like Bitcoin curious. I don't think he was an enthusiast of it yet, but he had kind of just been reading up on it over just big articles that had been coming out about it in the months prior. And yeah, it was really just something I had absolutely no idea about. But again, it's just like, just because I don't know about something doesn't mean I'm not gonna,
You're an
explore it.
artist,
And
you're going to
and
explore
if
it.
you explore it and you find that it's not for you, that's okay. Like at least you tried it. But yeah, had no idea what Bitcoin was. And just if you kind of told like 19-year-old Ainsley kind of what was coming her way, she would have been like, what are you smoking? Like, what is going on here?
So have you seen like directly like your audience reflecting more and more Bitcoiners because of that, or? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for people who are kind of familiar with the Bitcoin space, you might know about this term called Nostr, which is a new social media
Mm-hmm.
protocol that I fell into because Nostr and Bitcoin kind of go like this the more that you learn about them, because Nostr enables for micropayments or zaps on posts that you can put up on Primal or Nos or Damus, and then people can be like, oh hey, I find value in this post, I'm gonna zap it, and then that's money in your wallet. And so yeah, because of learning about Bitcoin, I learned about Nostr, and I've found an audience and a fan base that I never really thought that I would have found otherwise if it weren't for me kind of dipping my toe into this world. And yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I've been able to play some really, really fun shows that have been, mostly for a Bitcoin audience, but they've still been really fun and really valuable.
Yeah, let's talk about a few of those shows, because you already mentioned Boostagram and with Adam Curry. But you've been on some other shows, and you also were on the main stage, right, at Bitcoin in 2024. That's
Yeah, it was a
amazing.
ton of fun.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's the people pay a lot of money to get up there, so you did a great job.
Thank you.
Maybe tell our audience a little bit about some of the other shows that this sort of like adoption of Bitcoin has done for you, and how it's kind of opened your career.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, the first show that I ever did in this space that was kind of, mixing both the traditional music world and this Bitcoin world was the show that I had mentioned at the 7th Street entry at First Avenue in Minneapolis. Open mic, if you've kind of seen his tag on Nostr, he's a traditional music industry guy who is very deep into, the Bitcoin space. And I connected with him, my team and I connected with him early on, and he was like, oh, you've never done a ticketed show before? Like, I want to do your first ticketed show, and maybe we can figure out how to live stream it, and maybe we can figure out how to get people to pay you in Bitcoin for it. And so, we ended up doing that. But yeah, I mean, some other shows that I've been really fortunate to play are the main stage here in Nashville at the 2024 Bitcoin conference. I was kind of peripherally involved in the Bands of Bitcoin side stages that were happening away from the main conference footprint. I was lucky enough to MC the last day that we were doing that, and some of my friends, came in and played that, and it was lovely and wonderful. But I was also at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas this last year in 2025 and did some the Bitcoin for Corporations kickoff party with the Bitcoin Sports Network, which was a ton of fun. And yeah, I've just been able to do a lot of like really fun little peripheral events that are kind of allowing me to bring my audience that doesn't really know a ton about Bitcoin over to this place in I think of hopefully a fun and palatable way that doesn't feel so like, Bitcoin,
Yeah,
boogeyman, scary.
right.
It's like, I think my ethos when I'm looking at how to bring my traditional fans over, or even my Bitcoin fans over, kind of back to, the meshing of both worlds. I'm just trying to think about how a traditional music fan would kind of receive all this Bitcoin stuff. And my I think mindset about it is, hey, if you know me and you know my beliefs and you know my morals and you know what I stand for, just like as a human being in the world, can you trust that I've done my research with Bitcoin? And I think that it's actually a really a great thing, technology wise, money wise, culture wise. And so yeah, I think that's the mindset that I'm constantly trying to come at this whole thing towards.
Yeah, you talked about that a little bit at Bitcoin Day Naples about, I guess we were getting on the topic of orange pilling,
Yeah.
and you were talking about how many other artists you've introduced to this concept. What is the feedback been like? What are those discussions like? And um, how do you think uptake is for emerging artists and this emerging monetary network?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. First point being that, when artists hear about, or my artist friends, when they hear about the success that I've had in this space, they're like, cool, sign me up. Like,
Mm.
absolutely, let me try this. Um, Artists are not the heavy lift, because when artists see an opportunity to get paid on their art and their music, they're going to be like, yeah, sure, let's try it out. But then I think something that happens a little bit when, I bring my friends over into this space is, they're kind of like a new and shiny artist, and everyone's excited about them for a minute. And this was even kind of the deal with me. Everyone's excited for a few minutes, and then it kind of drops off, because we're at a point in this space where we have a lot of the same people talking about a lot of the same things. And I think that it can, for lack of a better term, it can kind of get tiring to, keep promoting the same songs and the same artists and whatnot. And so, when artists come in there and they have this initial moment of like, hey, awesome, welcome to the value verse, we love your music. But then, the zaps can drop off, the
Hmm.
boosts can drop off, the excitement can drop off. A month or so later, they'll come back to me and they'll say, hey, Ainsley, I love that this is working for you, but this doesn't really seem like it had the same effect on me. And
Mm.
they're always fine about it. They're always like, hey, it was cool to try it. But my thing now when I'm kind of talking about this issue particularly is that, my experience, coming into the space, earning the million sats, becoming, people are very nice to like call me the quote darling of the value verse, which like I would have coined to myself that, but the love and the reception that I've received needs to be the universal experience of all artists who come into the space. I can't be the exception, because if that's the case, then we're just creating another music industry with the same problems where a few lucky people rise to the top, and then the main majority of people who are also trying to monetize their music, they don't see the same reception. So it's twofold. It's like artists see that there's something really cool here, but then it doesn't keep sustaining, and it doesn't keep showing them enough value up front that they're like, okay, it was cool to try, but
Mm.
maybe we'll try it again in 2 or 3 years if Bitcoin pops off the way that we all want it to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. But so, I used Wave Lake for the first time because of you. And
Mhm.
I thought it was really, really cool to see that there was a lot of actually Bitcoin focused art on that
Mhm.
platform. And it was so easy to just zap somebody and be like, I mean, my instant instinct was like, oh, what a cool song, zap, and it was an amazing experience. But do you think is it just this transition from being able to go to like platforms like Spotify versus donations to artists that you want to support? Is that really the holdup, you think, as far as like people making more of a transition, or is it just the absolute abundance of resources to get access to music that's, in some cases 50, 60, 70 years old, right?
I think it's a couple of things. I think, with Spotify and Apple Music, as long as those big platforms that are, have a pretty bad track record of not paying artists the way that they
Mm,
should, where it's technically, I could get into why I'm saying technically on that, but where it's still kind of technically free for, the average fan to come in and listen to any song that they want to, as long as our music is on those platforms, it's hard to get normal people to come over here
yeah.
because fans are the ones who are going to be the heavy lift with retraining how we pay art and artists, and not even just music, books and films. And Zach from Indie Hub, which is a great Bitcoin culture platform where they're kind of trying to do this kind of same thing that Wave Lake and Fountain are doing with music for movies, because of talking to him, I've
Mm,
realized that, oh, you know what? I'm sure that Netflix is probably the equivalent of Spotify for the film industry. Like, it's relatively easy to go on and watch almost any movie you want, but when you think about it, the people who made the film probably are not getting paid the way that they should be. So I think it's, as long as our music is available on these platforms that basically make it free to listen to, it's going to be really hard to get people over here. But then also I think there is the stigma with Bitcoin where people who don't know anything about it are like, oh, this is a bad thing. What, Ainsley, why are you putting your music a
mm.
on a site where you can earn Bitcoin for it. So it's hard because I don't think that there has been that widespread educational piece with Bitcoin yet, where an average fan can come and look at it and say, "Oh, wait, this is actually a really great thing." But then also, I think a lot of these up and coming platforms in this space, and I say this with so much love because so many of these platforms have given me and my team like so much time. They've listened to our feedback and our critiques, and they've asked, like, Ainsley, what do you need? What do your fans need? And I think some of these platforms will even be the first to say it. Like, a lot of these platforms I don't think are ready for prime time use from, massive audiences
Mhm.
yet, because we're, of course, that happens when you're building apps. Like, it's going to be buggy and it's going to be glitchy and it's going to be kind of hard to understand. So I think um it's a mix of everything as to why it's kind of tricky to bring normal fans over to this space as of right now.
Yeah, and you talked about that in Naples, but there are some folks that you've tried to bring over that do push back against Bitcoin, and you
Mhm.
talked about having to overcome some of those misconceptions of Bitcoin. And so I'm wondering what that experience has been like for you, and what you found successful.
Yeah, I mean, one of the instances that comes to mind is one of my artist friends in Nashville, who I just think is an incredible musician. After I had told them to get put some of their music up on Wave Lake and Fountain, they'd initially seen kind of like, oh, hey, this is really cool. I can see why you like this and why you're into it. But they texted me maybe 6 months ago or so, and they were like, hey, I love that this works for you and I love that you've had great success with it, but because of the whole like orange man, orange coin thing kind
Oh,
of
okay,
plays into
sure.
into it right now. They're like, I just feel really anxious. It
Interesting.
feels like I'm only seeing bad things in the news about this. And I'm like, I can't fault you for that, because I've even had, moments of doubt like that, where I've had, some of my friends look at me like, "Oh, you're the crazy crypto girl now." Um, but yeah, I mean, it's tricky and it's challenging, but I think that this is no different than um when any other big technology has hit the zeitgeist that artists have adopted. Initially, there's this kind of hump where, there are some people who kind of see what it can be from the beginning. And then, maybe a little bit later on, once it gets a little bit more recognized and it becomes a little bit more stable, is not the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Then people are like, oh, now it's time for mass adoption. But
Right.
I really look at adopting Bitcoin and Nostr no differently than artists in the 80s who were using a drum machine for the first time. Like,
Hmm.
for me, my end goal is always trying to see how I can get paid, because, girl's got to support herself if she wants making music. This is not an inexpensive career choice to constantly go down. Um, so there's that element to it. And yeah, I mean, it's just tricky, but I do think that in the next couple of years that we'll see people kind of looking back at this space and being like, oh no, there was something here from the beginning. It was
Hmm.
just, kind of clouded because of the stigma of Bitcoin. And
Right.
again, I can't blame anyone for that, of course.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting that how much politics affects people's interpretation of the protocol, which is
Yeah.
completely agnostic, right? The protocol is open
Hmm.
to anybody. Anybody can use it. It doesn't care your race, your
Hmm.
color, your gender, what your political beliefs are. It's there for you to utilize. But if the wrong person is promoting it, then it can turn some people off. So that's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Hmm.
Um, but for you, it sounds like you've made a lot of friends through the Bitcoin network, musicians as well. And I understand that, like, recently you did a recording with a number of artists or Bitcoin related friends of yours that is in your new album. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. This was an idea that my team and I had going into the 2024 Bitcoin conference. We hosted this contest where you could send in, any lyric about what, Bitcoin or this technology kind of means to you, and then I would write it into a song, and we would put it on Wave Lake, and we'd put it on Fountain, and it was truly just a lovely experience. And it kind of fell in my lap because the producer of that song, his name is Jester. He's like an incredible EDM producer. I think I he had done a remix of one of my songs before, and I was just like, whoa, this is so cool. I've never heard my music
Hmm,
in this setting before, in this kind of
that's cool.
taste breaker palette. And so yeah, we hosted this contest where you could send in some lyric ideas, and then the top, I don't remember at this point, but like 5 or 10 people that had lyrics that we thought could really fit into a song, we would put in, and then you would earn Bitcoin off of a song about Bitcoin. But it's funny because me and my co-writer on that song, her name is Emily, and she's just so wonderful. We wanted to write it in a sense that, like, it's not actually about Bitcoin when
Hmm,
you listen to it. Like, you
hmm.
can listen to it and think that it's about just being on the brink of something new and exciting and wonderful, and kind of knowing that you're in on something early. But then also, if you are tapped into the space, you can listen to some of the lyrics and be like, ah, I see what you guys did there.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think also that is a little bit of another hump, if I'm being honest, about kind of where we're at in this space. You had mentioned a minute or so ago that, when you go on to some of these new platforms, you see a lot of songs about Bitcoin that are kind of like Sats, 21,
Hmm.
Satoshi. And it's like, that's awesome. And that's really cool. If that's your truth and that's what you want to write your music about, awesome. I am not going to stop you. But at the same time, I think it's really helpful when we're trying to convince artists to come to this space. If there are artists who are utilizing these platforms that are writing about real things that you would hear on pop radio,
Hmm.
which is I think, the representation that I at least try to maybe hope and bring to this space. Like, at my core, I'm a 21-year-old girl who is writing about things that 21-year-old girls experience. And it's been really cool to see that like some of the dads in this space who are like really into Bitcoin are like, oh my gosh, my daughter loves this song. And for me, again, that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. I'm always coming at this with the perspective of how can I find an audience for my music? Again, no different than artists who were utilizing MySpace in the early 2000s, or people who were on Instagram like right when it first popped off. But yeah, I've definitely made a lot of really wonderful friends because of this space. Joe Martin, who, people kind of say very nicely about me that I'm kind of like the OG of this space. Joe Martin was doing this even well before I was. If you don't know who he is,
Hmm.
he's a wonderful country Americana singer songwriter who, like, he sounds like he could be an artist who lives in Nashville, but he's actually based in the UK. But he was uploading his music as a podcast to the podcasting index long before I even like came in with my one song on Wave Lake. But yeah, I've met Joe Martin. I've become friends with a lot of the guys who are developing these apps, like the main team who runs Fountain.fm, which is a podcasting slash music app. They're wonderful too. I got to go to London for the first time back in November, and I met with them in their offices in downtown London, which was lovely. But yeah, I mean, there are just so many other incredible artists who, again, they are writing music about real things, and they're just utilizing this new technology, like Jesse Lark and Sarah Jade and Abel James, and Abby Muir and The Trusted. Like, I really could go on and on about how much really, truly amazing music is in this space right now.
That's really cool. That's really cool. What is the new album is called Xless? And what's the name of the song that you co-wrote with the Bitcoiner
Yeah.
input?
So the name of the song that we, held for the Bitcoin conference in 2024 is called Alchemy, and it's kind of almost like a secret little bonus track. Because originally, when I was writing that album, it was only about 8 songs, and right at
Okay.
the tail end of finishing that project, this idea to do this song kind of dawned on us. And so it's a 9 song record now because of Alchemy. But yeah, you can go and listen to it on Fountain.fm and a bunch of other places in the Bitcoin kind of ecosystem, like True Fans, or Podcast Guru. There's a bunch of other pieces and places that I'm forgetting, but yeah, that
Yeah.
song is
All
called
right.
Alchemy.
Well, and I want to reiterate what you said about dads, because when I got back from Bitcoin Day Naples, I introduced your entire panel to my daughter who's 17 and said, you got to check out all these Gen Z Bitcoiners. Here are the people and what they're doing. And so she's following you guys.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Giovanna.
Giovanni. Oh, what a lovely name for
Thank
sure.
you.
Oh, but thank you guys for showing her what we're all on about.
Oh, I think it's so awesome that you guys have grasped onto this as a way to earn. I mean, I guess like to that point, how do you think about that in terms of earning Bitcoin? Are you holding that Bitcoin for the long term? Are you looking at it as sort of a long term growth metric for yourself, a way to finance your business in the future? Should it continue to grow, or just long term savings? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm holding it, but also if I'm also in the studio right now working on, a new record, which I'm pumped about, which should
Hmm.
be, kind of, we should have some whisperings about that, maybe
Cool.
summer or so. But yeah, I'm also, again, music is not an inexpensive thing to make. And because I've earned money from Bitcoin, I've used that Bitcoin to make my music, which I think is like, I think that is kind of the circular economy that I think a lot of people in this space talk about. For the most part, I'm holding it, but I also really believe in using Bitcoin as money, because I think that's another hump that we get into when new artists come into the space. I'm self-aware enough to know that I was at the right place at the right time with a lot of Bitcoiners who were like had Bitcoin to burn, and they wanted to show people that we could use it. But when new artists come into this space, we have to show them the same amount of love that my music was showed. We have to zap them. We have to show up when they're live streaming their concerts, or we have to show up in person and ask if they have a wallet that you can send some money to, because I think a bunch of people in this space say it, but I think the only way that Bitcoin loses is if we don't spend it and we don't use it.
So you are essentially the best Bitcoin treasury company I've heard of so far.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Good job. Well done. Um, so when you start to think about Bitcoin from the perspective of how it disrupts the music industry versus the traditional music industry, what has it provided for you in regards to freedom, distribution? How does that world look compared to traditional music versus where you think this Bitcoin music future is going?
Yeah, I really try to have, I think, one foot solidly in each world because I think when you look at artists historically who have been on the brink of change or if they have led change, it hasn't been this all or nothing mentality of I'm just going to go over here and I'm just going to do this one thing and stake my my flag in the ground. The magic comes from trying to bring both worlds together because and I was on a I did an event at the new pub key in DC in early December, and David Tarr and I talked about this uh a little bit, this idea of did the music industry, the traditional music industry, if we're just putting Bitcoin aside for a second, did the music industry have, you know, for the most part, when it in the 1920s when we were thinking about how we monetize piano rolls and when we're thinking about paying artists, like they had good intentions when it came to protecting intellectual property rights and um, making sure that artists and songs got paid each time, one of those works was played or recorded, or up on stage and being played in that regard too. And so did the music industry always execute that in the best way? No, but they had the right intentions. And so I think it's about bringing the ethos of Bitcoin of like we all deserve to like be able to make a living off of the art that we're creating, but also kind of taking in some of these parameters that the music industry set to try to make sure that everyone gets paid and get paid fairly at that as well.
Yeah. Do you see, as you look to the future, do you see things coming down the road? Have you heard of things coming down the road? Do you think that you think will help this situation or make, paying artists over Lightning more and more feasible and more highly adopted?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Of course. I mean, one of the things that was really exciting to me when I was first kind of researching this space when Cherry on Top was originally having its moment was One Republic, which is a massive band. Counting Stars, Ryan Tedder is one of the like biggest, pop producers of all time. And I want to say in 2017 or so, they were the first band to like fully accept Bitcoin as payment for a show that they did somewhere in Europe. And Ryan Tedder did an interview about it and was like kind of saying a lot of the same things that me and my peers have been saying. Like artists are always at the forefront of change, and music is always going to be this cultural connector about how we bridge a gap between old and new and past and future. And he said something to the effect of, "This is the future. Like, so why wouldn't we try to?" Bring the future on a little bit sooner. And so when I see stories like that of people who've had really traditional music industry success, also realizing that there is a lot of potential for some really great stuff here, and it's not just like the little guys like me at the bottom saying, hey guys, let's go over here. It feels really special, and it also helps me feel pretty vindicated
Hmm.
as well. Like even Sam Means, again, who I brought him up earlier, the main founder of Wave Lake, he is a person who's had a lot of traditional success within the music industry, and he is the reason that I got into the Bitcoin space in the first place, because I think it helps to have people and sources who you look up to and that you trust, again, who that their heart, their morals, the things that they believe in, who are here to say we've done our research, this is a really cool thing. And again, mass population adoption on that front is going to take time, but I think
Hmm.
it's exciting to know that like there are people like One Republic, Imogen Heap, and even just some other artists who like they might be kind of dipping into the fake crypto stuff, just kind of for the joke of it all. But it's cool to see that they're just thinking about the future. They're
Hmm.
thinking a couple steps ahead.
Have you been offered to be paid in crypto other than, you know, your lightning zaps with Bitcoin?
I'm trying to think about that. Honestly, might be a question for my manager because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
no different than any other artist who's just like, "Hey, you have a gig in Vegas, just show up." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." I'm pretty sure we've had a show or two where we have been paid. My band and I have been paid like that, but I don't remember specifically what shows we've been at. But also, I, with these shows that I have been paid in Bitcoin over the Lightning networks, especially like those first couple of shows at First Avenue and at Antone's, we were walking away with a really great night's earning just because of what people were sending to us,
That's awesome.
value for value over the Lightning network.
How does that feel? Is that like, I mean, people are can literally zap you while you're playing live. Um, do you guys get a different vibe when that's happening, or do you even notice? You're just so embedded in the music, you're not paying attention, or
For me, at least, when I'm on stage and we've had these showcases set up, the room is set up in a way that like the artists can't see the TVs, because hopefully if an artist signs on to do one of these showcases, they already kind of they get the vision
yeah,
about this space. And the showcase is really kind of more for the fans or for other artists who are coming in and kind of just checking it out. So at least for me, when I'm on stage, I don't see the exact number of zaps that are coming in, but it's so cool to get off stage and go through your wallet and see, hey, this person boosted 500 sats to 2 ships. This person
that's
boosted,
cool.
$500 in Bitcoin. I don't know the sat number for that
That's a lot of
today,
sats.
but yeah, it's a lot of sats for sure. But oh my gosh, it's really cool, and it really opens up that direct to fan relationship in a way that I don't think the music industry has been able to accomplish before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. That's very cool. So let's step outside the music industry a bit and talk about Bitcoin from a Gen Z perspective.
Mhm.
When you guys were everybody on the panel there was like the first Gen Zs I've heard from in a long time that were hopeful for the future, and that was so powerful for me because I have kids your age.
Mhm.
So what do you how do you see Gen Z starting to engage in Bitcoin? How do you see that future evolution taking place?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, something that I thought was so exciting, the other night watching the Super Bowl, because I'm not a sports person. I am from Seattle, and so, the
Sure.
Seahawks winning is like the closest thing that I have to a home team. Woohoo! I was tuning in for the halftime show because I
Yeah.
love Bad Bunny. But as I was, we were waiting for the commercial breaks, and you saw that ad of that, I don't remember what song it was, that NSYNC or Backstreet Boys
Yeah,
song
the
where
Coinbase
it
ad.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, the Coinbase ad where it was just karaoke and it was like Bitcoin for everyone. I think you can't overstate the Gen Z marketing of that, because before anybody knew what that commercial was, we were all just singing along to this song that we know and we were having a good time. And then the slogan came in that, hey, like Bitcoin or crypto is for everyone. And that kind of hooks people in, and it's like, oh, we're having a good time. This is something that is real, and it's something that shouldn't be this kind of scary like black market kind of thing. And so I think that ad was just like so fun, and that like
That's
that
so
gave me a lot of hope the other night too. But yeah, I mean, you just can't overstate the marketing piece of, having a young person who looks like you. Like for me, that's why whenever I'm going to these kinds of Bitcoin events, I am showing up kind of how I would show up on stage. Like you can see me from a mile away. I have pink tinsel in my hair. I'm showing up like Princess Pepto. Like, hey guys, I am a real person. If you've, looked on my social media, you know what I'm about, and I'm here to talk about why I think Bitcoin is a great thing. And that's why I was so excited when I met Madison, who was on the panel with me. When we first connected, we were like, oh my gosh, women in Bitcoin support group. Like, you're another girl my same age who you understand that this is a great thing, and you're into it and you're excited about it. The same thing when I met my friend Ella Huff, who now works for Strategy. The two of us just like clicked the first couple of times that we met. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was the first time I met someone who, again, was a young girl who was around my age, who was serious about this and was passionate about this, where I realized, oh, this makes it worth it, that all this time that people are kind of calling me the crazy crypto girl. Like, no, like, we can be the crazy crypto girls together.
Yeah,
Like, not
absolutely.
even not even saying that like we're crazy or whatnot, but just knowing that again, it's that representation of knowing that someone who looks like you, believes in the same things that you do, is also believing in this new technology. Because at the end of the day, I think that is what Bitcoin is. It's a technology,
Yeah.
no different than the
Like,
internet.
and you said
Mhm.
something that was really important there, right? I mean, Bitcoin doesn't have a marketing department. It doesn't.
Yeah.
So the marketing is you telling your
Hmm.
friends, me telling my friends, and yeah, a lot of times it's just going to grow from a grassroots, real world perspective. They're going to see you be successful with it, and then they're going to try it. But and you also mentioned women in Bitcoin. Have you participated in Women for Bitcoin? Have you are you aware of that group?
I am aware of that group. I believe that during the 2024 Bitcoin conference here in Nashville.
Yeah,
I think I got invited to the Women in Bitcoin luncheon, but we were having to juggle some technical
too many
difficulties about
things.
like putting the Bands of Bitcoin stages up
Gotcha.
and whatnot. But yeah, oh my gosh, so cool, such
Yeah,
a
they're a
great
great group.
organization.
They are a
Yeah,
great
and I
group.
can't wait to meet more of them in person.
The women in Bitcoin are better than the men in Bitcoin because there's fewer of them and they're stronger voices. So they have a very clear and dominant message. So yeah, highly recommend getting together with those girls. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, what do you have coming up in the future for shows, and where can people see you and experience an Ainsley Costello concert and zap you some Bitcoin?
Yeah, there's actually two events that come to mind when you ask me this
Okay.
question. On March 15th in DC, I'm going to be playing the Runster event at PubKey in DC again, which I'm stoked about and thrilled about. It'll be exciting to go back to PubKey now that they've kind of opened up a little bit more. Because I was there kind of at the soft launch, like right before they had officially opened. But so yeah, after the run is happening of 5K, I am not an athletic person, so I don't really know what kind of running is going to be happening. I just know that I'm showing up and I'm playing some songs about my feelings. Um, but yeah, so I'm playing the Runster event, which I'm thrilled about. And then also in June, I'm going to be playing Camp Nakamoto. If anyone has ever heard of that, it's like a family friendly summer camp. It's the best way that I can describe it. On a lake in New Hampshire somewhere, where it's, the whole thing is going to be monetized by Bitcoin. You can pay for your food in Bitcoin. You can pay for your music in Bitcoin,
Very cool.
your lodging in Bitcoin. But yeah, so I believe I will be playing at Camp Nakamoto as well in June or so, which I'm thrilled about.
Oh, that's really cool. Very cool. So before we go here, I guess I'm going to give you an opportunity to sort of tell Gen Zs of the world the value of Bitcoin and where you think it can have a positive impact on their life. Because I think, what I've seen, and I think you kind of touched on a little bit. A lot of the Gen Zs have a negative look at it,
Mhm.
or haven't even considered it yet. So, from a girl with an open mind and open heart, how would you tell your mutual Gen Zs to take a look at Bitcoin?
I would really challenge any person of the Gen Z generation to look at Bitcoin no different than any technology that has rocked the zeitgeist in the past. With music, people again, like I compare it a little bit to the drum machine that kind of took the music industry by storm in the 70s and 80s. It's no different than the internet. It's no different than people saying, "Oh, don't buy things online. Like it's a scam. You're gonna get all of your money taken away." And now you have five Amazon packages sitting on your porch 25 years later.
Right.
Um, it's a technology. I mean, I know it's kind of a cliche thing to say, but like, do your research, like, look into it. Maybe look at people who are adopting it, and just start with people who you feel represented by it. That was at the Bitcoin Day in Naples. It was so cool to see Natalie Brunell in person for the first time. And again, like I was talking about with my friends Madison and Ella, when I saw people again who looked like me, believe the same things that I do, and they're excited about it and they're passionate about it. that was a huge thing for me. But then also, it was really big for me when, the original million sats came in on cherry on top. When at the time, it was only about Bitcoin was only about 25,000 or so. And that was about $300, which not a huge amount of money in the grand scheme of things, but that was enough for me to realize, oh, there is something here. And because I've gotten it really deep into the whole Bitcoin world, and I've learned a bit more about our financial system and how hard it is to make a living for yourself. I've realized that one of my biggest goals, just like outside of, my goals as a musician, like I'd love to buy a house one day, and I don't want to have to take out a 75-year mortgage to do that. And artists deserve, can and should be paid for the art that we create, because we contribute so much to culture. If you have ever felt seen or heard or represented by a song or a book or a movie, but then you took a step back and you realized, oh, my $25 a month that I think I'm paying to the artists on Spotify is actually going to the CEO to have a really nice, cushy office on the top of a skyscraper somewhere, and it's not going to the artists. Like, that was really indicative for me of like, oh, this is not, the wizard is not real. This is this is not what I thought it would be. And that's okay, but we have other options for that. So it's a technology. If you're a young woman, I am so here to be the representation of like, I love pink, I love sparkles, I grew up on Taylor Swift, and I believe in Bitcoin. Like,
That's awesome.
um, and I think, the two are not, mutually exclusive. I know again that there is kind of a stigma with Bitcoin politically, but there was a great study that came out a couple of years ago, I think by the Progressive Bitcoiner, where they did a survey of all Bitcoin owners, and most people who believe in Bitcoin are either kind of like straight in the middle on the political spectrum, or they're slightly left leaning, and that
Hmm.
was really exciting for me to learn about, too, as somebody who does lean pretty left myself. But yeah, that was just so exciting for me. And again, like having people like Sam Means in the space, and Michael Ree, who was in on Wave Lake, in the beginning too. It was just it was lovely. And even become like, I've my adopted aunt now in the space, Heather Larson, who, like, again, she holds like so many of those same beliefs that I do, and she's just like Bitcoin's most staunch advocate, and outspoken person as to why this is a great thing for everyone. It was really eye opening for me. So that was just basically a long rambling
Oh,
session of like,
that was great. That was great. Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
you are an impressive Gen Z, an impressive musician, and an impressive Bitcoiner. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for sharing your story with us today. And maybe tell the audience where they can follow you, find your music one more time, and your ex, whatever you want them to, however you want them to contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if anyone is listening in this space and the first thing you think about is Nostr, I'm very much all over Nostr. I believe I am Ainsley at Toonster. I don't remember. But if you just look up Ainsley Costello, I'm hard to miss. I have bright pink hair and sparkly, stuff, and there's always kind of some glitter, that a glitter emoji that's following me around on Nostr. So not hard to find. But then also, if you are on the traditional social medias, I'm Ainsley Costello official on Instagram. I'm Ainsley Music 07 on Twitter. And then, yeah, if you want to listen to my music, I would really, really encourage you to go and listen to it on Wavelake, on Fountain, on platforms that allow for direct micropayments to the artists. But yeah, I am also on all of the traditional legacy platforms like Spotify and Apple Music.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Make sure you all like and subscribe so we can keep bringing you great guests like Ainsley here today. Thank you so much. We appreciate you and keep doing all this great work.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was a blast.
Awesome.